Welcome to my free music theory. Today we're going to learn how to read music notes of the bass clef. The same with the previous tutorial on how to read notes of the G clef, we're going to study the notes of the bass clef by lines. We have and also by spaces. So again, we have two groups here, the notes on the lines and the notes on the spaces. But firstly, we're going to study the notes on the lines. But before we're going to proceed to our discussion on the notes on the lines, we're going to have a short review of the staff. A staff lines is numbered from the bottom. We have the first line, the second line, the third line, the fourth line, and finally we have the fifth line. And of course, there should be a sign of a clef. Now this is already a bass clef. On the first line of the bass clef, we have letter G. On the second line of the bass clef, we have letter B. On the third line of the bass clef, we have letter D. And on the fourth line of the bass clef, we have letter F. And finally, in the fifth line of the bass clef, we have letter A. This means that the first line of the bass clef is always G. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and so on. On the second line of the bass clef, it means B. It means that all the notes found on the second line of the bass clef is always B. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and so on. And on the third line of the bass clef, we have letter D. It means that all the notes found on the third line is always D. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note. Either the stem of the notes is going upward or downward. It doesn't change the pitch names or the name. Next, on the fourth line of the staff or the bass clef, we have F. It means that all the notes found on the fourth line is always F. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and so on. And finally, on the fifth line of the bass clef is always A. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and so on. Now, say the letters G, B, D, F, A to master the lines of the bass clef. Say it 25 times. G, B, D, F, A before you are going to proceed to the tutorial. Okay, next lesson, we have here to use our fingers to associate the lines of the bass clef. We have here G, B, D, F, and A. Okay, let's proceed to the spaces of the bass clef. Now the spaces of the bass clef is numbered from the bottom. Again, we have the first space, the second space, the third space, and finally we have the fourth space. And of course, there should be a sign of a clef. Now it is already a bass clef. In the first space, we have letter A. In the second space, we have letter C. In the third space, we have letter E. And finally, on the fourth space, we have letter G. This means that the first space of the bass clef is always A. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and so on. On the second space of the bass clef is always C. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and so on. And on the third space of the bass clef is always E. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and so on. And finally, on the fourth space of the bass clef is always G. Either the note is a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and so on. Now again, say the letters A, C, E, G for the spaces of the bass clef. Again, say it 25 times for the spaces of the G clef. A, C, E, G. Again, we can also use our fingers to associate the spaces of the bass clef. We have here A. For the second space, C. For the third space, we have E. And finally, we have G. This is the way that helps you to develop in reading music notes. Now, to master it, you are going to study the lines and spaces. Say the letters G, B, D, F, A for the lines and A, C, E, G for the spaces of the bass clef. This is Francis Imoy. Thank you for watching.